Welcome to the Answers for Elders radio show. Meet the trusted experts who will give you straight answers and will help guide you on the path of later life care. Now, here's your host, founder, caregiver, and CEO, Suzanne Newman.
And welcome everyone back to Answers for Elders Podcast Network. And I'm here with Lori Hudson from Hudson Insurance Solutions on behalf of Humana. And we are talking about occupational wellness and how we can stay with a sense of purpose in our lives. And Lori, you and I talked a little bit about in our previous segment. For those of you that are interested, go to our part 1, and it's about scenarios that can happen if you're in the interruption of caregiving, whether it's a spouse or a senior parent or someone. It's finding purpose again, and we are talking about purpose. And Lori, you brought up an amazing. We're going to talk about so many people in the baby boomer age group are starting brand new careers. It's one of the biggest things, like the baby boomers are redefining retirement. They're not going and hanging out on a beach, although they will do that. But they're doing things that they always wanted to do, that maybe they worked in a computer organization or as a technology, and all of a sudden they wanted to start something like an art gallery or something like that. And it's been really interesting to learn about how boomers are reinventing themselves. How do you see what goes on with our boomers right now?
Well, one statistic I read is that the most important thing for our age bracket is flexibility. So we may want to work or feel like, we're capable of working 40, 50 hours a week if we choose to do it, but having that flexibility. So especially if we have grandchildren or, whatever kinds of issues we might have, that we have that flexibility. And I think that's why, for a lot of people, starting their own business can be a good way to go, or, some type of position where you have that flexibility. It can be the most important thing for a lot of people.
Yeah. And I know when I was caring for my mom, my job had outgrown me. The company moved on, right? New skills had to be developed with my position that I didn't have before, and I wasn't brought into the fold to come back. I realized, and the other thing is I didn't want to schlep yellow pages anymore. Right. I felt like I wanted something that would give me purpose, value, like I was making a difference, because I had been through what I'd been through with my mom. And I think as we get older, I think we tend to want to do things more in that realm. Wouldn't you say that's true?
I do agree with that. And that sense of purpose can really be tied into that.
Yeah. And I think too, there's a lot of alone time when you're caring for someone else. And, it's real easy to give yourself a pity party, because I don't get to go out with my friends anymore. And I don't, my siblings don't help me, and I feel pressure and all these things. But so a lot of it, I think, has to do with self-talk, and there might be anxiety over, well, how do I get there? So how do we get over that? And how do we move forward, Lori?
Well, I think that one thing that we can do is, really come to grips with the fact that we're not alone. I mean, you read off some of those statistics, and I think sometimes we can feel like it's just us and we're all alone. But now with all the online resources available, there's support groups, Facebook pages, networking, things that we can do to connect with other people. To realize that, okay, we're not in this alone. We can relate to other people, and I think that can be really helpful for our mental health, but also for kicking some ideas around, other people about what they're doing, what their skills are.
Yeah. And I think too, a lot of it, we kind of set our own anxiety if we doubt ourselves. So it's finding things that we enjoy doing finding things that we're good at, and, stepping into a scenario where, I always wanted to be an interior designer. I help my friends all the time. Well, there's an opportunity there, when you're caregiving, and you could certainly get a degree in design through correspondence, through a college. There's a lot of opportunities that the world has opened up to us that you don't have to jump right into it. You can learn. I think the other thing that's really important is finding a good support group. Have you seen a lot of support type programs out there?
I think they're out there, but my experience has been that a lot of people just tend to isolate themselves. They get so focused on their loved one that they're
Mhm.
taking care of, that they're not taking advantage of
Mhm.
that.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's out there, but I don't think that the majority of people are tapping into that like they could be.
Yeah. Usually there's like support groups in churches. There's support groups also in a lot of women's organizations and professional women organizations. To go to a breakfast meeting or something like that before a day starts, that's something that you could easily find a way one day a month to go connect with people that are in the field that you may already know people that. I think the other thing is to reach out to former employers and ask them, I really would like to know, what do you view are my greatest skills? Because I think a lot of times, we've been criticized in our workplace, but we're not affirmed for the things that we do right. And I think that's one of the things that we could certainly do to find that new career.
I completely agree with that. And also, again, not discounting the skills that you're gaining by taking care of your kids on,
Absolutely.
because you can. And so, you talked about support groups. Well, when I was saying my son was type 1 diabetic, well, through his provider, there was
Mhm.
a support group that I joined, and
Awesome.
for parents that have diabetic children. And there's a lot of
Mhm.
things that you go through and that the child
Mhm.
goes through. And so it was really helpful to just network with some other people and share
Mhm.
that. And so sometimes through the doctor's office you can find that out too. So if your family member has Alzheimer's or
Love
Parkinson's or
that.
whatever it is, there's groups that are specific to
Mhm.
that. But then you just think
Absolutely.
about how much you're learning about the medications they're taking,
Mhm.
the different things that could be transferable to you to care for someone else, if
Well,
that's something
and
you enjoy
you
doing.
put your notes down, which I think is amazing. Like, what are some of the transferable skills you learn from caregiving? And you listed some of these that are amazing, that people may not really acknowledge or realize that they're gaining from caregiving. What are some of those skills that you shared?
Well, I think organization is one of the big ones. Is that you really, if you're taking care of your loved one, you've got to organize
Mhm.
all their medications.
Mhm.
I think that that's a big one that people don't think about. You've
Mhm.
got to think about all their doctor's
Yeah.
visits, all
Yeah.
that kind of things that that you um, have to
Yeah.
work with them on.
Well, and some of them that you listed here, I'm going to just read them. Leadership.
Yes.
You're leading a crew of people. You're taking the lead with your loved one on setting priorities for the day. All of those things is wonderful. Communication skills.
Yes.
I learned how to talk to my mother who had dementia. I all of a sudden realized, how to get her off of being defensive for everything that I did.
Yeah, you have
Those
to problem solve.
Yes,
Um,
yes. And the
huge.
problem solving piece is huge because, again, I always say we're always having to react at a crossroads, and it would be really nice to be prepared for what that crossroads is going to be, but we never know what it's going to be, right? So obviously having the ability you talked about to be adaptable, that's amazing.
And you may be using technology, when you're, it's just the simple things, you're tracking through MyChart, their doctor's visits, their, the communication. So you might be gaining some web skills.
Yeah.
That could be
counseling. Because you're probably doing a lot of that with family members and with different types of individuals, with doctors, healthcare providers, all that type of things too, as well.
Yes. And a lot coming at you all at once. And that's a skill to.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's interesting, Lori, because when I was in the thick of caregiving and I had lost my job, I lost my house to foreclosure at the time. It was in 2008, right when the stock market crashed. And here I was. It was crazy during that time. It was insane. And I just envisioned this phoenix rising out of the ashes. I had this vision in my head of, you know what, I am not going to let this beat me. And I remember people saying, well, you've never started a company before, Suzanne, you could never do this. And, I remember this reason why I wanted to say this is there's a quote by Howard Schultz, who is the CEO, founder of Starbucks. And he said, nobody ever accomplished anything by listening to naysayers.
Right.
The thing that I know is that we're all going to have naysayers in our lives. But you know what? I really, truly believe that our personal will is much more powerful. And
I thought of another quote when you said that.
Tell me.
Something to the effect of the people who say you can't do it are the ones standing around watching you do it.
Yes.
Which is so true.
Yes. Yes.
Then you're right.
Absolutely. So everyone, we're really glad we have this conversation today. We're going to talk a little bit on next about the whole social wellness piece. But in the meantime, Lori, how do we reach you?
The best way is my website, and that's Hudson Insurance Solutions, and it's HUTSON insurancesolutions.com. And I work with Medicare beneficiaries in Washington and state and now in California. And then if you're in the other states, then you can fill out the contact form and I'll get you in touch with somebody. But
perfect.
If you're in those two states, I can help you.
Perfect. And the great thing about it is that Humana, who is our major sponsor, they have all kinds of wellness type programs in their Advantage program. And so Medicare Advantage. So you should definitely check it out. And Lori and I, we're going to talk about social wellness right after this. We at Answers for Elders thank you for listening. Did you know that you can discover hundreds of podcasts in our library on senior care? So visit our website and discover our decision guides that will help you also navigate decision making. Find us at answersforelders.com.